All right. Am I showing correct screen because it's not showing me frames? Is it motherboard you see? Yep. Okay. So here are two types of. This is in two sections. On the left side, this was the last swarm session where some of us came together and we took this Excel sheet. You will see on the left side where community has collected improvement proposals in idea scale and in Google Sheets and Forms, which they think that should be adopted or should be aware of some changes or ideas. How could we make the Catalyst process a better experience? So if there are some ideas or proposals you have or you know somebody has, you can drop them in this Miro board or in the chat or message me. So we could update it and look through more of these kinds of improvements. In the swarm session, we took from the latest submission and one by one went through the document and read, okay, what it's about, what its purpose is, and mapped a bit to the one funding cycle, and gave a bit of like that current call consensus. Okay, what kind of priority would give it, and what is the value of doing it for the next fund. On the right side, and there is today's session with the Catalyst team, mainly consisting of IOG members, where today we ideated on the main problems we have, root cause analysis like where expertise, workload, expectations, and incentives, and came up with some solution, brainstormed that, and finally we added it on a board. Why it's all pictures and not sticky notes is because the Miro board is locked and we couldn't. I couldn't copy paste it, so I just made pictures and compiled it here. And for right now, I think the best way to start is to actually read through these root cause analysis and just to get like the feeling of, okay, what are the issues and what people are presenting, and then we can have a discussion of, okay, what are your like main points. And I like to practice what we actually did. So instead of me reading it then for you, I would like random people to take, like, let's say one person. I will name a name, let's say Nadia Hopkins, and read the sticky notes around the expertise and give a bit of clarification how you understand it.
Okay, great. So one of the root causes of these challenges is the expertise level. There's no identity for I'm assuming this is all community advisor, no identity. There's no structured guidance or learning path to becoming a community advisor. There's no reputation, meaning there's no way to sense whether or not someone is there for the first time, someone has a lot of experience. There's no weighting or ranking system for that person to be able to understand their history and level of involvement and level of production of quality within the system. You're really taxing my eyesight on the all assessments are weighted equally in the final score. Okay, so that's attached to the reputation. Low barrier to entry as a community advisor, meaning it's pretty much like a self-chosen role and requires the possession of ADA and the entry of the wallet and a name. So beyond that, there's not a real sense of what that community member's other qualifications are for taking on a role that has the impact that it has. And then there's no meaningful feedback loop for the community advisors, which I'm going to take to mean that unless they are rated at good or excellent or have their assessments approved, there's no real way to say, this is why this was excellent, here's what you can improve on, so that that person can continue on in their growth. Is that correct?
Yeah, yep, that's
okay. No qualification or verification. Yeah, so I think that sort of sits with the other ones there.
Yeah, cool. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna put, let's see, Sophie on the spot for the workload. If you're here, I hope you're here. And the goal is to just read the sticky notes around the workload and just and clarify what as you understand them.
Before Sophie starts, or until she starts, I just wanted to add, I think, Nadia, you said that the only barrier for entry for CAs right now is that they need to have a wallet and they need to have some ADA. But for anyone who hasn't participated, you don't actually need to have those things, I think. You can participate without getting rewards. So absolutely any person who wants to join can join. Just wanted to add that there.
Yeah. Sophie, I saw you trying to unmute the mute.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes, you can.
All right, so workload.
Yeah.
So another root cause is workload. There's a lack of clear work assignment. The workload scaling more quickly than workforce. A lack of filtering of proposals and assessments during process. No formal and automated way to detect copycat bots. CAs get to choose which proposals to assess. No limits on rewards, incentivizes volume. Right, so there's a couple different things going on here. Part of it has to do with the assignment. So both like lack of clear work assignment, but also which ones CAs get to choose. And filtering, so it's sort of also the interface of how people get to choose which one, how CAs choose which proposal they assess. And there's just not enough new CAs coming in as opposed to new proposals. And there is some limitations on like, yeah, automated some assistance, automated assistance for doing some of the work that is being done now. And yeah, the specific one about no limits. So because because you can just get endless rewards, the more you do, there's a reason to just do as many as you can, and that incentivizes bots as well, I guess.
Yep, pretty good. And for the expectations, I will put Victor Jager on spot if he's willing to unmute and read the sticky notes and add a clarification of how you understand them. Victor? If not there, I'm gonna try Mike Chandler next to read the expectation sticky notes and give a slight clarification of how you understand this. You're on mute.
I apologize. I'm viewing this on my phone and I cannot see it, so I would have to pass.
Okay. How about TC Collard?
Okay, expectations, disagreement among community members on what constitutes quality. Lack of maximum number of assessments per CA. Perhaps this could be tied to reputation. No self-check mechanism for CAs prior to submission. Templates are allowed but cause trouble. Unclear expectations. I'm probably the wrong person to be reading these because I disagree with a bunch of these. So the lack of maximum number of assessments per CA, I guess people think that CA should only do a few of them. I'm not exactly sure why that would be, because we're trying to do more. So you really want to have CAs be more productive if you're trying to scale up to the number of proposals coming in. Templates are allowed but cause trouble. I think that's poorly used templates. I used templates last time. I had lots of exceptionals. I only had a couple of things that got filtered out. And disagreement among community members on what constitutes quality. Yeah, I'm the biggest. I prefer objective sort of analysis as opposed to subjective. And I'm one of the people that disagrees with probably the majority of this community. There you go.
Oh, but that's great. I actually disagree also with some when we run the session, but all right. And the final section.
Sorry, would it be possible to just dig into that bottom right one? I don't really understand what it means.
The no self-check mechanism for CAs prior to submission.
Yeah.
So basically, we can just log in to IDScale, create an account. We can make multiple accounts, and that's the only check we do for CAs. And okay, and the next check is the pop-up: do you want to be CA or no? And this is.
Okay, all right. So similar to the ones we had previously. It's not about the I thought maybe it's about the content of CAs checking their own work somehow.
Mm-hmm.
This is purely about registration.
At least for my understanding, yes.
Well, we're getting input from a lot of people on this, so I read it more like I think how you were thinking, David, but I don't know how this would work. That if you've written an assessment, if there was any way to get feedback, some sort of automated feedback, maybe this is referring to, as to whether you've fulfilled the responsibilities or not. I'm not sure.
That there is one more possibility, or actually two now. One is that when because you start registering CA for 1 week before, so you get like, oh, we got 1,000 CAs, hooray, we're gonna get this done. But when the actual CA starts, and then we have now check how many actually started doing this. So we will find out after they submitted, and then we realize, oh, only 100 or 200 CAs submitted from that 1,000. So that could be one self-check issue. What is thought of here?
There was a discussion a couple of weeks ago also about after the CA has done their assessment, to check with other CAs to compare their scorings before they finally submit. It could also refer to that.
Yeah. Okay, and moving to the final incentives, and I let Naveed Burmani to take these sticky notes and
Best to last. I think most of them are fairly similar. So lack of clear punishment, low opportunity cost, relates with perception of easy money and no social repercussion for cheating. So it's pretty easy to put something down related to the low barriers to entry, and it's from people I speak to, especially new people that I've helped to onboard, the first thing they said was, "You're just making simple money here," and you kind of have to get them up to speed about what we're actually trying to do and the quality we expect. So going round clockwise, current incentive encourages cheerleading of expensive proposals. Okay, it's to do with the bonus for, I presume, the bonus payment for if your assessment ends up on a proposal that's being funded, you get additional 20% on your CA rewards. is what my understanding.
Mhm.
Running count of assessments don't represent final count. So during the CA process, Victor generally produces a lovely dashboard, which we all love, and it keeps account of where we're up to. And I think this time we got to 7 or 8 assessments per proposal. It's kind of it potentially needs some improvement. So it doesn't start to include things that are poor assessments. So they're not filtered out. We've seen how many thousands of assessments seem to have been filtered out now, which is why we're left with 100. So we're all doing a great job getting the volumes and getting up to 7,000 or 8,000 assessments. But of that, 20% tend to get filtered out pretty quickly, and those stats are a little bit not really representing the true state of where we're at. So again, opens us up to a bit of gaming and cheating based on the other rules, on the other boxes there. No deposit, nothing to risk. Not entirely sure what the background of that one is. Whether somebody's concerned that a CA should be paying for the opportunity to assess.
The test is what
It's
something
been raised as a possibility. I don't think that has strong support at this time, but it is part of mechanisms that other communities are using where you have to make a deposit. And then if you do something kind of malicious or undermining the purpose of the system, then you would lose that deposit.
We just be conscious of the communities, that the global community that we're developing here. Not everybody has thousands of ADA or even hundreds of ADA or even tens of ADA in their wallets.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think that's high priority, certainly for this coming round. I think there's other ways we can work towards achieving the goal of higher quality.
Yeah, great.
But it has been raised, and there may be some people kind of researching that as a possibility.
All right. So now we have a bit of clarification where this, like, what are the issues and what was the a main discussion. I think we don't need to go into all the solutions and ideas we brainstormed and kind of stole from the previous sticky notes, or like these other improvement proposals, what other communities suggested. But I would like to focus us a little on the prioritization section, where we kind of gave a rough idea of what could some of these solutions be do for this fund, and what for our upcoming fund, and what for the future funds. And I think starting from the quick wins is the most meaningful. And if, of course, somebody notices something which is in the wrong position, also let us know, adding sticky note or comment, so we could take this information back to the Catalyst team and reorganize or reprioritize what are our focus areas.
Sorry, just a quick question. I understand the x-axis is going to be time from the looks of it. What's the y-axis exactly?
Oh, yes, I didn't make a picture of this. So the
Impact.
yeah. This.
Yeah, the y-axis is impact. And the
Thanks.
x-axis is actually effort.
Okay, a bit more clarification, and it starts from the direction is also.
Hey, Tevo, some of those stickies are a little blurry, even using the Miro app and zooming in. I don't know if there's anything you can do about it.
I can't do nothing yet. So, unfortunately, the motherboard was locked from copy pasting anything. So I just zoomed in as much as I could and to make it something visible. So unfortunately, these what are too blurry. Gotta skip it.
Yep, exactly. All right, appreciate it.
But starting from the top, because honestly, I haven't actually, after we put all of these sticky notes there, and then we had some final conclusion, okay, what are the next steps? And then we left the meeting, and then I started doing this copy paste work because I was thinking, hey, why not talk about community with this, who is also he's actually using the process very aggressively. What I see here, quick wins. So the most easiest to do and the highest impact, exclude 1.0 outcome of the assess similarity script. Check on commute advisor IP to identify suspicious CAs. I'm not sure. Does anybody here knows how would you even check IP for CA? Like, I assume it's an IP address.
Well, oh, go ahead, Merrick.
Yeah, I am able to identify CA IP, or at least I think I can do it using the idea scale backend.
Isn't that something that's easily bypassed by using a VPN though?
Yeah, of course it is.
Yeah, so.
Okay, so my impression for okay, that would be interesting to see if same as that, if there are similar assessments from the same IPs, and it's a quite quick check. But here on the right side, here is like all of these 4 sticky notes kind of converge into the idea of adding another stage or basically another stage or another role where you, when the proposals are completed, finalized, then there are a stage where people don't assess but observe, like give, does it have these kinds of, okay, this is not actually related to that, but yeah, okay, because these are already CAs to develop. Here it was more about checking if the proposal is good enough to be even assessed, because there is a lot of time waste. Actually, we're using CA's time to assess something which is not really very up to date, and we could simply hand them a guide or give them simple guidance. Okay, in order to get funding from Catalyst, you should add budget breakdown, or you should add the team and clarify that part. Like these, like main things you want to see from idea before you even would hand somebody money to execute it on, because there was not enough information. So we have a lot of proposals like that, and that stage would help to minimize the amount of work CAs have to do. And another one would be, I see Nadia is trying to read. And
something that occurs to me as you're talking about this, Tevo, is the following. If we had this sort of additional stage, I wonder if it could be, rather than sort of different group of people, it could be the veteran CAs. And all they do is kind of give numbered ranks to what they're observing, no written assessments. And then there's like a committee meeting with either Merrick or others that are kind of running the process, determine if we can identify things that unambiguously are manipulation, not even just poor quality. Let's see. I'm not thinking this too clearly though. Yeah, okay, so you go through the CA process. So then, like you said, you're going to have this smaller window. My thoughts are getting unclear as I'm trying to, I'm going to pause because I have to think about it a little bit more before I have a clarity about it.
There is a danger of, like, even when starting off that idea, I was like, have a central figure to do something, because we do try to decentralize it. And if you have like allow the CAs to have, hey, we have allocated another incentive for you to just say yes or no, does it, because people, what most of us, what we filtered out was people observed, which is not a bad thing. Like, we do need observers, we need to see fact checkers, but what we were expecting from CAs was assessments. So in order to have what they like to do, they like to come through proposals, give them the opportunity to, okay, now there is a stage where you just have to say yes, no, and there is like a checklist, go through this. And when we use like this swarm, or like the collective knowledge of like 50 or 100 people, because yes and no is easy to answer and you can do it very fast and a lot of proposals. So my assumption is we're gonna get more like results. And if we get like overwhelming 80% people saying like these proposals are missing this, and like a lot of things are missing, we could give them like a different kind of like guidance to these proposals in general, and don't have to waste CA's time to actually assess them and reward them with like $100s because like there was not clear enough nothing to add.
What's occurring to me is the following then, based on what you're saying, is
hey, Kendrick, Scott actually answered, raised hand before, so
yes, yeah, go ahead, Scott, excuse me.
I was just going to say, like, how are you going to, I mean, we're already having issues with CAs trying to game the system, and now you want them to reevaluate like their buddies' proposals again and just say, yeah, it's good. Let's go ahead and assess it. It meets the assessment guidelines. So let's go ahead and assess it. You're not solving any of the gamemanship that's going on with the CAs by adding this extra step. You're just, I mean, you might eliminate some proposals that aren't worthwhile to assess or don't meet the criteria, but you're still going to run into the same issues that we ran into this go round.
Is there
Unless there's another check in there, unless there's a way to identify, like which was the previous sticky, but you know.
Yes, you're correct.
Go ahead, Nadia.
Is there an easily discernible difference between, like, there's this 20% or 1,800 of these assessments which ultimately needed extraction? Is there an easily discernible or flaggable, like systematically flaggable thing that is occurring when they are?
I can address that.
Okay.
Yes, and the answer is yes and no. So for instance, Merrick has a tool that automatically looks at the similarity, and he's able to identify 2 different addresses, IDs, that have the exact same review, and all of them are exactly the same. So this is unequivocally manipulation, and they don't need a lot of human effort to identify that. And so that's part of what got filtered out, but we did that filtering at the end of the process. Whereas if we'd been able to do it at the beginning of the process, it would have saved a lot of effort for the veteran CAs. But then there's other kinds of manipulation that are harder to detect. And maybe I'll try to frame it, what I was thinking about in terms of those harder problems is that, what if, I think it's important that this still be a VCA process rather than a different team. But what if the VCAs went through sort of a 2 to 3 day period, and then there was kind of a pause in which we evaluate that first input, and we make some decisions as a team as to either proposals that already have more than adequate reviews, or proposals that are already identified as very low quality and we don't need more effort into doing that. Or there are CAs that have manipulated the system and their assessments are going to get flagged out. And that way we have kind of this initial look, some filtering, and then a little bit like we just did anyway, is that then we go back and we kind of assess what needs to be done. And then the full VCA team is charged with either finishing the VCA work or the need to write some more assessments.
Okay, so so that makes a lot of sense. Is there something that, like, for these 1,800 here, was it that, 10 people did 3, I know that math doesn't work out, but like some number of people did well over 100, where if, as the proposals are being assessed, you see that someone's starting to hit these high benchmarks, or it's spacing off and coming from so no one's getting large numbers that would raise a red flag, but some of them they're just coming from different places. I guess I'm asking this question because it seems to me like once the bot issue is addressed, then the things like the criteria that Dwayne is bringing up and talking about within the reviewing of whether these assessments are quality or not becomes a much different process. And whether or not you stop these nefarious people at the beginning by making the training and the onboarding process more complex, or you see them as you go, we somehow need to get to the point where those numbers are so much lower that you actually can address increasing the quality of the people who are going to stay. Is that sort of where you guys have come to at this point?
Yes, I think you've encapsulated some of the thoughts. But maybe let's hear from Scott too, in terms of what his idea is.
I was just going to ask, like, okay, so like, has there been any analysis, like, as to how long it takes to actually enter an assessment on idea scale versus like a human doing it versus a bot? Like, I don't even know how a bot would do it, to be honest with you. So that's above my pay grade. But would there be a way to time, I don't know, like use time as a metric to see how long individuals are staying on a particular project, like how long it takes them to submit an assessment?
I think Victor,
find some metric like that, if that makes sense.
I think Victor has looked at that, Scott. However, there's some complications there in that if you're using the CA tool, right, you may be putting all of your assessments together in that tool or some other tool, frankly. And then at the end, once you're done, just copying and pasting your work into idea scale. So that the time that it's entered is available, I think, but it doesn't seem to be a perfect way to assess work that individuals have done.
Yeah, I just want to address that. I mean, that's how I do mine. Like, I do my assessments in a different document, and then I paste it into idea scale for my assessments. That's why I was wondering, like, if there's that time metric. Anyway, okay, thank you, Kendrick.
Yes, TC Connor.
I think this is a little bit off topic of what we're doing right now, but one of the things about the bots that gets me is all of this is only even capable of happening because CAs are anonymous. If we made the CAs publicly IDs, you would quickly figure out who the bots are. People, it would solve the problem. Like, as a quick win with easy to implement, that would be very simple and solve so many problems. I think anonymity is what's causing us more grief than it's solving. That's just my impression.
That was discussed. I think that was discussed last forum session or at another Zoom meeting about the CAs and the VCAs not being anonymous, having their IDs shared.
I think my perspective on it, and I'm trying to, and this comes from sort of listening to different conversations about this issue, is that the CAs kind of sit in between the voter and the proposers, right? So the proposers have full identity and the voters are completely anonymous. The CA role, as I understand it right now, is in between in the sense that you do have to have an ideal scale ID. And it's not a perfect identity, but it's kind of a pseudo identity. And the team processing this has some ability to kind of, observe how your ID is behaving in the system and then take actions based on that. But I don't think it's a good idea to go to making the CAs fully identified, and part because I think the people who are recommending that don't really appreciate the extent that CAs could then become bullied or harassed or somehow manipulated in the way they're doing their assessments. So protecting the identity of the CAs is important. And then the final step is the VCAs are public, right? There's this, if you agree to be a VCA, you're agreeing that your identity is going to be public in that role. So there's kind of a management of identities through the process.
But just to go back to that point, VCAs would be subject to the same manipulation. And one of the issues we're having, what we're describing here, is that people, because they're anonymous, are able to manipulate the system, right? So you're trading one off for another, right? So if I'm anonymous, I can evaluate my friends or even some proposal that I'm quasi-related with, and nobody will know, right? Whereas if it's public, people know people's biases just by knowing their personalities and like their relationships, right? So in that regard, you're not really saving anything. And as somebody who's done assessments for a long time, I'm well aware that you can be bribed is much more common than trying to be intimidated, right? So your real effort is going to be against bribery. But that could go on now. That could even go on now with anonymous. Anonymity isn't stopping bribery.
Yeah. Well, I'll just say quickly, and then Nadia should go. The other proposal that's in here is that you would choose which challenges you feel qualified to review, but then it would be random in terms of your assignment of which proposals to action, which particular proposals you review. And then I added one, and others have kind of commented on this. I think what I'm envisioning, we are looking towards a reputation system so that IDs would develop a reputation over time. And I'm kind of envisioning a process where over time, as you grow your reputation, you're permitted to do more assessments. So I don't know the numbers yet, but if it's scaled kind of logarithmically, say you're a newbie, we don't know who you are, you're only allowed to do 2 to 5 assessments. But you get through that, you do it successfully. The next round, you're able to do somewhere between say 10 and 20 assessments. And then if you get to the point where you've shown that you can do some, if some of those are excellent, then maybe it scales up to, you're able to do somewhere between say 30 to 60 reviews. And so there's a kind of scaling process. And also by putting limits on how many you can do, it also then encourages people to focus on doing excellent reviews, right? So if you want to increase your reward, you're willing to put more time into it, your focus becomes on writing excellent reviews rather than trying to write a lot of reviews.
Can I just want to jump in here? Sorry.
Yeah.
I did 100 reviews last time. I had 18% were excellent, 78% or something like that were, 76% were good. The numbers you guys are quoting around, you can only do 50 or 60, just aren't real, right? You can do 100. So
the numbers
I have a bit of a problem.
adjusted.
I'm feeling a little bit targeted here.
No, not at all. And I didn't have access to the numbers. In fact, before the meeting, I asked Tevo about it, and he didn't have it. And I was going to talk to Victor to get the actual data before any actual numbers were associated to this. And also, like, if you're getting 18% excellent, then you're certainly meeting the qualifications that would be expected. So, yeah. And it could, and you know, the last category could even be unlimited, right? As long as you've built a reputation that demonstrates you're doing excellent reviews. And if you've innovated a process that helps you do innovative reviews on a you know, productive scale, that's great.
So
But the key is getting to excellent reviews.
I've got a question.
Can
Can you
is it
raise your
related?
hand, Richard? Because we've got a couple people waiting. So if you'd raise your hand and then Nadia
Sure,
can
no worries.
go. Yeah, use
I'm not
the
sure.
reaction.
Just trying to find it. I'm on a little iPhone.
Oh, I'm sorry. We'll come back to you, but maybe Nadia and then Victor and then Richard.
Yeah.
You're on mute. Nadia, mute.
Nadia, go ahead.
You.
Hi, everyone.
Meet Victor. Nadia was on mute.
I made a lot of frenemies in my first few weeks of doing this because I didn't know how to raise my hand. I just kept it up. So now I try to stick with it. So that is very clarifying, that what was just said. It seems to, so if I'm thinking like someone who wants to move from a community advisor role, do a good job and like benefit from these incentives, then it would seem like you'd want to maintain your account, like your history with what you've done, and also to improve that. So it does seem like, I guess my question is more of a technical one, like what is it a doable thing to attach reputation without anonymity? Are those things, can you do those separately? What are some of the, maybe that people can talk technically to what's actually possible here? Because, you know, we're gonna come to the end of this call and there's gonna be, you know, moving into.
Yeah, I'll just give a quick answer for clarity. It's my understanding that IOG is implementing some kind of reputation reward as a kind of NFT that may even be available in Fund 8. I'm not certain of that, so don't take my word on it. And then I'm working with Allison on a proposal that would involve the Atella Prism digital identities that would help to provide a trackable reputation within the CA process. And others may be proposing things like that too. That will take further development though. Go ahead, Victor.
Hi, everyone. I'm Victor. We have a proposal in the Decentralized Identity section for Fund 7. And we already spoke with Alison and Kenrick how this particular issue can be solved. Regarding the anonymized community advisors and how to deal with their identity and when it should be present, or in other cases it should be anonymized. Something that can be done lays in the area of verifiable credentials, which may support selective disclosure and zero knowledge predicates. This is not about Prism, Atala Prism credentials right now, but I believe that the guys will develop all and add all this functionality in the future. But from our experience with Hyperledger Indy credential, this is something that definitely can be done, and this is the way how we can separate identity and anonymized interactions for the same people. And in case these interactions happen to be malicious, for example, then the identity at the next step, the identity can or should be revealed to get rewards or something like this. So there is some algorithm and approaches that allow this kind of dividing into the anonymous and not anonymous identity for the same wallet, for the same person. Yeah, thanks.
That's great, Victor. And it's nice to meet you. And if I understand right, we have a phone call coming up in a couple of weeks. So I look forward to talking more with you about it.
Yeah,
Richard,
sure.
go ahead.
Yeah, I was just listening to what people were saying about the reviewers and anonymity and all that. But I was just thinking a way to possibly solve that is to just have all the reviewers go into a pool, and when something comes in, they're just randomly to select whatever it is that they have to review. So there's no relationship, and no one elects themselves to review something. They just get a job to do, a task, which is to review whatever project they've been allocated randomly. And then that breaks the link between people being corrupt or trying to represent the thing that they want to represent. And then on the people who submit proposals, a quick test to do that, if you suspect a bot or something like that, is just to do a plagiarism test. So, you know, for example, on universities, they use various systems like Turnitin or whatever it is, and you quickly get it scored automatically, because bots don't think of things. They just copy and paste. And then you can see the relationship between whether someone has plagiarized or taken something from it. And if it gets a high score, then you know maybe it's a suspect. So I was just thinking about those two
That's
aspects.
a terrific idea, because, you know, the fact that we had bot attacks in the CA process maybe is a clue that we're eventually going to see that in the proposal process.
Yeah.
And so maybe getting ahead of the game, we should be thinking, it provides further justification, and I think it is necessary to have some kind of filter or minimum standard on the proposals as well. That might be a good way to do it.
So I'm just completing a master. So every time we had to submit an assignment, where you turn it in, you immediately get feedback saying, hey, this looks percentage plagiarized or whatever. And therefore, if the reviewer can see that score, they can quickly figure out whether this is something abnormal, so you're not getting spammed. And again, you know, I work for a company at the moment, and we just have a pool of resources for project managers. We don't get to select who they are. You may get a good one, you may get a bad one. So again, if you've got all these people who are got specific roles, if you take away the ability for them to elect themselves to a particular thing, they're just randomly selected. That would solve the other part of that problem.
Yep.
And the final
that's a
thing,
good suggestion.
The final thing would be, these people who take up these roles, there are in companies things called terms of use and acceptance here, acceptable terms of use. And you can make a little document saying, look, these are the things that you sign up to in these roles. And when you accept the role, do you sign up to it? So it puts some ethical onus on the person to understand that they're aware and they've signed up to these user terms of T's and C's or user acceptance. So sometimes you can't always put in controls, and so you have to leave it to the individual, but you make them aware of that by saying, look, these are the the acceptable terms. Do you accept them for this role? And then they sign up to it, and then at least they know they're
another good
aware of
idea,
it.
because it gets to the idea of a deposit. But what you're saying is, rather than kind of a cash deposit, you're making an ethical deposit.
Yes, and
I like that idea.
And in those things is, they sign a checkbox saying that these are declarations. I've gone through this, blah blah blah, and you can even
that could be part of the training process too that people are talking about, right?
So I mean, I've got some professional certifications, and there are codes of ethics in there that we have to sign up to. If I break those ethics, I lose my certification.
Great, thanks for that input, Richard. Dwayne, you want to go ahead?
Yeah, just a comment on the randomization. So that does have some issues because people have challenges that they are experts are qualified in and other challenges that they're not. So you definitely want to be able to limit it to, you want to be able to specify as a CA which challenges you're in.
Right.
Not only that,
Yeah.
most
There has
CAs
to-
are also,
There has to be some criteria like pools, like, you know, some people are specialists in identity, some people are specialists in dexes, some people are specialists in hair, but in those are a set of
yeah. So-
resources and pools.
So as long as a CA can choose the challenge, there's no problem with the randomization within a challenge. The other thing that comes up is because you have to exclude yourself from certain challenges because a lot of CAs are proposers and they can't be an assessor and a proposer in the same category, right? So I just wanted to make sure that that's caught.
Yeah, exactly. Very good.
I mean,
Tevo?
this is going maybe a bit too far, but you know, it's one of the things that certain companies do. I'm not quite sure whether it's ethical, but when you're trying to, there are very advanced techniques and software out there to create networks of associations if you wanted to, where if someone had a conflict of interest or didn't declare it, you could find that out just through social links, and it's used all the time in industry.
Yeah, that's interesting too, is to kind of do, there's all kinds of ways that correlation, and this is another one where, you know, you kind of build a social network and understand which agents in the network are more related to each other. Yeah.
Anyway, I'll be quiet for now. That's just some.
No, that's terrific input. Thanks, Richard.
Just a thought on the randomly assessing proposals to CAs. I must say that the start was quite against it because I think we don't want to like hinder the CAs to have the maximum value on proposals. But I'm starting a little meltdown with the fact that, okay, they can start choosing a challenge, but some challenges are like very varying. You might need like accountant or like a technical person or like some specific skills to assess the proposals. So that would go back to, okay, now we need to more better categorizing the proposals themselves in order to randomize the proposed like assessors based on their merit. So like I wouldn't do it right now because I think it would actually do much more harm than good.
Mm-hmm.
But I
well,
like
the one thing here's my thought in this is that you know, we've scaled the program and we have scaled the number of CAs participating. So I don't feel like scaling the CA role is the challenge we're facing right now. The challenge we're facing is to increase the quality of the work that individuals participating in the program are doing. And that's why I'm also suggesting that I don't think, you know, as Dwayne has described, he's been through a few rounds now. He's also has prior experience in doing reviews. And so he's built up kind of a reputation of being able to do a lot of excellent reviews. If we can track that, then it certainly makes sense for him to have kind of unlimited, you know, what he can do is going to contribute. On the other hand, for someone who's new, who we don't know and hasn't provided, hasn't gone through a training course, I don't think it makes sense for them to do more than 3 to 5 reviews, because we want a chance to assess the quality of those reviews before we get swamped with lots of inadequate reviews. And it just makes, and then those people starting need to focus their time on developing the skills to write excellent reviews. Sophie? I may not have said your name right. Pronounce it for us and introduce yourself.
Yeah, Sophie is fine.
Okay.
Yeah, I wanted to add to discussion on some sort of like automation of those things, and also the detecting similarity in proposals. I think there's a lot that can be done there. I have I work for a company that worked in the field of education technology, and they did a lot with data science and artificial intelligence. And there's a lot of opportunities there. And I think also on the board, it is pretty far to the right now. And I think it depends on the scope, but you could also find
You're
We
breaking
cut
up.
off. We lost you, Sophie. I'm not sure who's next at this point.
Scott.
Yeah, I just wanted to touch on what Richard said, and it's really got nothing to do with IDs or verification or anything like that. But if there's an application that he's using, that the university's using for his master's thesis or whatever, to see if it's plagiarized, why couldn't something similar to that be employed for the various proposals? Because I hear a lot of times that there's like duplicate proposals. So I mean, like, couldn't that something like that be kind of like twisted to fit that need, and then notify the proposing teams of similarities?
There's a lot of software out there that does it automatically. So they use a professional thing. It's called turn it in. When you turn something in, the system's there. It's just a question of whether you purchase it. But also, I don't know if people have heard of a thing called Grammarly. If you actually pay for it, it has actually a plagiarism button on it that you can click. And so this is where it does your own checking. You know, you can just click it, boom, and it's there.
Yeah, I like that. I like this idea because I think we're headed for problems. Given problems in the assessments, we're headed for problems and attacks on the proposal input itself.
But then, you know, the nice thing is that it can do it. The one that I've been using is it keeps, even if somebody's written something in the past, it knows about it because it keeps a catalog of it. So if you wrote something a year ago and then tried to present it again slightly different, it would even recognize that. So it's like, it's quite interesting, and it enforces a discipline because
and this is called turn it in. Is this the one you're referring to?
Yeah, it's called turn it in. The system's called turn it in. So when people submit their proposals or it could be an essay or, you know, a postdoc, after instantaneously within about 5 minutes, you get a report back from Turn It In, categorizing almost every piece of plagiarism it can find in there. Now,
well, the nice thing about that too is it could automate what I'm suggesting as a bare minimum standard on submitting a proposal. In other words, there may be, that way it takes out the subjectiveness if you're going to have a filter.
Yeah, I mean, as this is a first phase filter, if something came up highly plagiarized, it would immediately just go, hey, there's something wrong with this.
Yeah,
and
I wonder if it could be configured to
it tells you exactly that the paper it came from, the place it came from, the time it came from, and the percentage. So if it was 1%, 3%, 5%, 50%.
Is it open source? Do we need open source for this?
I don't know if it's open source,
or is there a similar one like that that does the same
all
thing?
the universities use this. All universities use some system like this because plagiarism is such a problem now. And to encourage you know, original writing or citing things correctly. So and you get a feedback. One side of it, as a student, you get a feedback and go, oh my God, I need to rewrite that because it can be accidental. And then the second side, there's a second report that goes to the invigilator where he can see the things that you can't see, like whether you plagiarized someone in the university or somewhere else, if it's sensitive or that. So they get a confidential report that you can't see. Also, self-plagiarism is a problem as well because you're not allowed to do that either.
I wonder from Marek, how would integration with some of these tools would look like? Because I know you can, from Catalyst side, you can use API and integrate and share the proposal information outside, or like integrate the tool. But yeah, if it's a paid, then I guess there are requirements from both parties. But like, how would that be even possible with Idea Scale, or we need to go to develop a community tools for this? Any
Maybe
input from-
Merrick could take a minute and talk to that question, Tevo.
Very good question. I would say I think it's possible, but you know, Idea Scale, it's totally different company, and we are one of the many of their clients. So if we want to integrate something, if we want them to develop something for us, they would have to create a ticket in their ticket tracking platform, Jira, or I don't know, UTrack, GitHub, I don't know.
Yeah.
And then they would have to plan it, put it in the backlog or roadmap, whatever. And then they would have to find time to implement that, to test that, and deploy that. So even if we propose some solution that can work for us, it doesn't mean it will also bring any value for other clients. So Idea Scale may do this or may not, because first of all, they are earning from their platform, right? So their main focus are the improvements that can work for the majority of their clients, not doing some, I don't know, micromanagement.
I have two follow-up questions, Merrick, then. You know, one, it would seem to me if other customers are also doing kind of proposal processes, that it still could be of value to other clients too. But then the second question is there a way, do they provide a way to export the proposals so that we can do our own analysis?
Yes, we can export everything. I'm exporting all the proposals from every stages basically once a week.
Okay.
Sometimes more often. But please note that different clients use Idea Scale in different ways. I think that we are we are pretty special case.
Yeah,
because we have
right.
Almost 50,000 members,
right?
And usually when the company buys Idea Scale or other idea management system, this is only for implementing inside improvements. So
yes, right,
usually people who are assessing or making any reviews, they are not anonymized, because these are your colleagues and they want to tell you what you should do better or so.
Very good. Dwayne?
Yeah, so before we go too far down this whole plagiarization sort of thing and the idea that proposals can't be duplicated, there's lots of scenarios where this is totally should be accepted, right? So one of the ones I came across this time is somebody offering some training sessions as part of the accelerator program, and they were offering the same thing, but they're offering it in different geographical areas. So what, they have to rewrite their entire proposal 3 different separate ways?
Oh no,
they did this.
It doesn't work that way. It just gives you it's not an imposing thing. It just gives a graphical view of for the person, and it's really broken down in quite detail. And so then the person just goes, oh yeah, this is similar to that. It doesn't,
right.
You still have to have a judgment on it. It just
so
makes it.
That's the point I was trying to get to, was that there has to be a human judgment, and
Oh yes. It's
right? Because just because things are similar should not be a sole reason for
exactly.
eliminating them.
Exactly. You know, I submitted one thing and I got a high score of 52% one time because a lot of stuff in the appendix got hit. But there's always it's just a tool for it's a judgment call for the assessor. You know,
Yeah.
it's for them to look at. And if they see, and the tool, the way it looks, you can see immediately that when something's wrong, it has this visualization to it. So, but I mean, I wouldn't say like here it's so much concerned about plagiarism. I don't think that's the problem. It's just the tool that the academics are using. I think it's more useful for you if you're trying to identify bots, because I think they would stick out. They would come up like a huge flag. And I think the first thing was just to test, instead of going down the route of a full-blown thing, is just to test something like that. But the nice thing is that then the universities then build up this record of what all the students have produced in the past, all their masters and PhDs and blah, 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 and whatever. And so you have all this rich data with all these proposals that have been put in. So if suddenly a proposal that's been put in a year ago, you will say, oh, wait, this came a year ago, or you'll see a timeline to it. So you go, all right. And it can be genuine, or it could be, well, we think this is
Well,
a
there are
bot.
going to be lots of cases like that where people are resubmitting the same proposal from previous ones that weren't funded.
Exactly. And that's when you have a judgment call.
Right. Dwayne, I also wanted to wondered, you know, because you emphasized how you're using templates and advocated for them. Do you have any references about standardization of reviews that would kind of either a research paper or an industry white paper that would kind of explain your advocation for that?
Well, the industry best practices aren't to do subjective writing like this at all. It's instead of having like mini essays in response, what you normally have is very concrete statements. Does this proposal have a budget? Does it do this? Does it do that? Right? And then you assess each one of those individually, and you'll have a list of like 100 of them. Right? That's the normal standard process. That's
right. But when you say
I've never seen it done any other.
But
I've never seen it done any other way.
Right, but I've heard pushback on that. So what I'm asking is, do you have a reference that describes it?
So
if it's an industry standard, in other words, where's the standard? Can you show the document that describes the standard?
I'd have to look for it, but
I know of a standard that does that, and it's kind of ubiquitous in the business world. They're called business value propositions, and there's a standard model for that. It's very well known in the business. If you come from the business side, that's what they use. And it is a model. If you look at IT for IT, they use it, like a bit like ITIL, but that's a standard model for saying, look, you've got a value proposition, and inside there is a framework for evaluating it. If you go online and just do a business value model, the most two successful models that people understand are the business value model. If so, anybody who's done business studies understands that. And the other one is business capability models. And that's another way of judging something by reducing it down to the capabilities, but at a very high level abstract. And then you can apply different expertise to those capabilities.
Okay, thanks. Merrick?
I just wanted to ask if there are any questions I can answer, because I have to jump off and be at that. But if there are any question, I can answer it really quick. No?
Seems you're good.
Thanks, Merrick.
Thank you. Thank you, Tevo, for pulling this breakout room. Great work. So see you guys next week. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Merrick.
Bye-bye.
I may have to jump off soon myself, but this has been a terrific call. It's so informative.
Yep. Well, I kind of skimmed through a bit of these sticky notes, and one thing what we haven't discussed yet so thoroughly, and I would like to find your input, is in terms of the idea of it's a high impact and it's in the quick wins category, so there might be implementation, but I'm not really sure we should do that. Like a split assessment format in checklist template, but ban templates or have specific rules on their use. So would anybody be agreeing to ban templates? Because I myself, I feel like it might not do too much good, because there are a lot of proposals and there are some guiding questions to help us to assess. However, assessments are rational and they should be quite unique from the assessor's perspective. So anybody has some ideas on that?
I can relay what Chris Bard, one of the leaders at IOG, provided some input on this. And one of the guiding principles in developing the assessments is that he called it proof of work, but I'd rather use the term kind of proof of human thought and effort is one of the guiding principles in terms of making sure we're working towards creative, original proposals that add new information to the assessment. And in a conversation I had with a researcher, Philip, on the team, he said, and I don't know much about this, and this isn't short term, but that he is aware of tools that can try to make an assessment of originality. And originality would be both like a comparison with the other assessments. Like if say you have 10 assessments on a proposal, which of those assessors is contributing original information that adds value to a voter's insights about the proposal? So those conversations have led my own thinking to be not so much that we ban templates, but that's not what we want to encourage. And that's also why I'm asking for references from Dwayne to understand his perspective a little bit better.
Sorry, I guess that's a cue for me to say something. Basically, like I said, like any government will use the template format for assessing any of these, right? Like that's the way you go about trying to make objective judgments. I did a quick scan on this business model or business value thing. Yes, it seems to use the same techniques. Basically, what you're telling me here is you don't want my continued participation in this, right? Like this is exactly everything. No, that's exactly what you're saying here, right? Because this is what I would consider the best and most objective way to perform an assessment and to go another route.
Right. So what I'm asking for is, some documented. I want to build evidence around what you're saying, right? So that we can get beyond it being an opinion and have it supported by some evidence. So evidence would be a standard. So for instance, if there's government agencies, more about how they do their process. If people have researched this and sort of figured out what works well and what doesn't work well, and the research paper provides some data in terms of evaluating assessment processes. I'm looking for evidence. That's what I'm trying to do. And what Richard suggested, in terms of the business model types of assessments is good input. That's the kind of thing.
Yeah, and I can send you a whole crap load of links from pretty much every government agency as to how they're, because whenever you give whenever you submit a RFP, so request for proposal, you normally give the proposal assessment template with it so that the proposers know how they're going to be scored, right? So that's very standard practice. So I can give you tons of those, right?
Okay, that would be helpful.
I would just, just have a, so I'll give you some background. I'm an enterprise architect, security, cybersecurity. I've just done a master's in enterprise architecture. And what I found out is that most frameworks don't work because they're all theorized and keep a load of consultants in business, but there's no empirical evidence from business when you go and look at them that any of them work. So they keep, so there's this frameworks that they have, and then when you go and ask business what they're actually doing following these frameworks, they're not following these frameworks. So what the hell are they doing? There's no actual empirical evidence at the coalface that these things actually work. And so a lot of it comes down to experience, but there are a couple of artifacts that are well positioned that people do find. And one of them is business value propositions. Now, if you look at IT for IT and ITIL and stuff like that, they've taken that business value proposition and turned it into something for IT. But the same business value proposition is used throughout industry, in marketing. If you talk to anybody who's from the business side and you say, show me your business value model, I had never seen one till 2 years ago. I went, wow, I get that. And it gives you a model. And then the other one that works really, really well is business capability models, where you're just trying to describe what it is you're trying to do. And as an enterprise architect, what I'm trying to do is align what your business idea is to the IT. That's my job, is to bring alignment between your business strategy and what the IT strategy is. And it's just a conversation with a load of fancy artifacts around that. And a lot of them are about proposals. What are you going to do and how are you going to do it? And the one that seems to be the best that I've seen today is this thing called business value proposition. So somebody comes to you with a value proposition and it has certain things and things that need to be filled in. Now, a lot of business people who are not tech heads really understand that because they're taught it. It's one of the first things they're taught when they do a degree or they do business studies. But a lot of the guys on this side of the fence, which I was, come from IT. We're IT heads, we're tech heads. And so we don't ever see these models. And so for us, it's a different language. So now you've got to have a blend between people who've got a business proposition and someone who really understands IT. So that's a kind of a gap. And your assessors are in the middle, like enterprise architects, trying to, what is it you're trying to do? How we go? Is this a valid thing? So it's a tough call.
My question to T-Collard, regarding your template you have created and you kind of followed, could you say like 1-2 main criteriums what your like this template should have, what you created? Like if somebody else wants to create it from scratch, what is like the main point?
It's fully documented. It's there.
But he's asking Dwayne. Let's let Dwayne answer the question.
Sorry, I didn't hear.
Yeah, sorry. The specific one I used was the criteria that were given in the CA guidelines, right? So my approach is that every proposal should be assessed the same way in order to be objective. So in Fund 6, what I did was I took everything in the guidelines, I assessed each one, and I did a descriptive so that, I could do proof of work or proof of human thought, right? Beside each one saying that I understood what it was. So that was the template that I used and the checklist. this round I made it much more concise because that was rather long. And I'd heard some feedback about, walls of text, but I don't know how successful that's been since I haven't seen the results yet. So I don't want to go in on that aspect, but I had submitted a proposal to IOG, about a month or so ago, about the format, what it would look like for a formal, what I would call standard proposal scoring mechanism, right? And that was just broken down into specific points, and I did an example of that. That's in the Telegram chat list there, and there's a document linked in there. I could go back and find it again.
Yeah.
But that was my recommendation at the time. But now I've actually moved on because I've gone to one of the ones that you have in here. One of your sticky notes I saw earlier was similar to what I have proposal in the spreadsheet there of Dan's, right? So I was saying we'll break it down. So we'll do, first off, we do a automated filtering. So has everybody filled in all these fields, right, in their proposal? If so, then it goes to some qualitative or quantitative sort of CAs who basically give feedback in real time during the 3 weeks that proposers are able to write their proposals and modify them, right? So that's just a sort of checklist. Did you do a good job, acceptable, or not a good job, something along that line, something quick up and down, with a little advice sort of thing to say, budget should be broken down, for instance. And then those CAs could keep doing that over and over again iteratively until it gets to the final day, at which point you would have a different group of CAs, or could be someone from the same group, but that group would give subjective analysis because everything that got to that screening part would be said to have been complete, right? So it's got every component. So there's no need to actually judge it by the criteria.
So it wasn't not only much about like template, but just a guideline how to do an effective and like a sequence at assessing.
Well, I think the secret there really is, I think the reason I've been successful and a lot of these other templates haven't been, isn't the fact that I'm using a template or a checklist. It's the fact that I'm not just saying yes or no, or, I'm actually adding little blurbs beside it to say that, that show that I actually read the document, right? I think that's the only real difference that's been done.
Yeah, there is. Well, when I went through these, sorry, Nadia, to do these templates, like at first I was like looking for this like a assessment checklist, like, hey, pointing out and like started doing like analyzing, okay, what people say. And once I started using a difference tool, I realized that not most, but some of the point outs, like let's say every fifth assessor what was pointed out, hey, check this out, he's copy pasting. I realized they do use a template to copy paste, but they change very crucial information in that template to match with the proposal. So I was like, oh, damn it, I'm not gonna filter all of them out because it looks like they're actually putting thought into their like template they are using. But yeah, I didn't ever get to the point where I could like one by one go and assess them because there was so much mass issues. Okay, Nadia.
Yeah.
I'll just, having listened to this call and the one last week, I think if you all, it seems like there's such differing approaches to this, but I think if you all got into a group, there are the people who are really giving feedback on how the content should be delivered, got together and thought about, if we had like a baby beginner CA sitting in front of us and we needed to educate them on what to do, you guys would probably agree on like 95% of what you are talking about, and it would probably eliminate another 95% of the well-intentioned human issues. I'm not talking about bots here. I'm just talking about so this was the first time that I did the community assessment role. And I am someone who really likes to like read things and be thorough and follow the protocols. And I think there's just a lot of space. It's a very good fundamental document to help people understand what the expectations are for that role. but there's a lot of space to really refine that. And maybe if we took a different kind of approach, rather than trying to figure out which way is best, an approach where we would say like, okay, what does this person need start to finish? What do they need to complete? What should they avoid, so that we could at least eliminate having to evaluate these as potentially nefarious, right? We would recognize them somehow and start to bring that person forward in the process of coming back again. Because if they spend a lot of time and really put the effort into it, do 10 or 15 or 20, which could take, you know, hours for someone, and then they get a bunch of good, or some of them are eliminated when they actually legitimately made an effort, that person's not going to come back, and you lose the opportunity to have someone who's going to continuously be a contributor and then be a great VCA eventually. So I think that maybe one of the opportunities is in the preparing someone for a role that, if they do it incorrectly on a large scale, really labors the system, in addition to the solutions that already need to be found for the nefarious contributors.
Yeah. I'm going to have to go soon, but I would like to hear if anyone in the group is familiar with the different training programs that have been offered, and you know how those are going, and whether those maybe should become requirements for new CAs. Can anyone speak to that?
I'll just add in that I also did Catalyst School, which was extremely helpful in terms of how to get myself in there and to contribute, but it did not address the content that should be contributed. But it was excellent for getting someone into the role and knowing how to submit.
And was in the Catalyst School that you attended, was it specific to the CA process, or was it?
Yes.
It
was a live webinar that was recorded, and I watched afterwards on their channel.
Also on behalf of the Catalyst School, and there are slight changes depending on the hosts and the facilitators. For example, I noticed that some people like to go through the slide deck and then have a conversation, but I would like to have more like a workshop to hey, let's take this assessment now and let's do analyzing and together. So I think we are getting there, and we're like pushing this content, but it slowly creeps up. Like, and I understand that everybody is not so savvy to even find out, oh, whoa, there is a Catalyst School, there are YouTube videos, and finding the time to actually spin through this. So I hope not, well, I believe over time we are getting better at pushing this content out and creating actually maybe some kind of more like workshop sessions and like I have like people for option to choose. Okay, I'm gonna go to this community advisor because I like more to listen, and some people like I like to more to activate and do stuff. And from my own experience when doing this, I already know that the next time I'm gonna share a bit more insight of on the overall, I don't know how to explain it, but I know what mistake I did, which is that I explained, hey, check out these excellent assessments from previous rounds and do a rationale and based on that. But what now seems to happen is that people copy pasted that, and that wasn't my intention, although it felt like that this could have been one of the issues.
Yeah, I want to touch on a couple of things. So the Catalyst School training of the CA. So my first CA was Fund 6. That whatever the training happened to be, I don't know if Catalyst School was really around, but I do take meticulous notes for every class every event. Like there's a relevant link, I put that in the notepad on my Mac, and then I keep links and everything, and whatever's pertinent, I copy and paste it from whatever slides are there that may be presented if they were given. We'll say Fund 6, the training was like horrible. Like how do we make sure that CAs are up to speed and have the knowledge that Catalyst wants, that the Catalyst team wants CAs to follow? Because I didn't get that until I was a VCA this fund. And then that's when I saw the documents for the CA. And then also saw some other information. So there's like this big disjointed, there's not even a connection for information dissemination, period. Not at all. Like
That's a big challenge, I think, in the community. That's true.
A proposer shouldn't have to become a CA to see what they need to put in their proposal, just like a CA shouldn't have to be a VCA to see what a CA is supposed to be doing. So that's the information that needs to be provided, because like I remember on Fund 6, I was using this little thing. It was like impact, feasibility, and auditability. And it was a little black box, and it had like 4 things in each column that you needed to look at. And that was it. That was all I was given for Fund 6. But, and to go on, because I'm not trying to take up a whole bunch of time, but to go on, if we can make it to where CAs are required to take some sort of Catalyst training on Zoom when it is presented by a Catalyst school, then you have your identification also for that. It doesn't have to be known to people, but that can be used as a part of identification, and that's also verifying their training as well. So.
Yeah, we did talk about that too, but it has this issue that it's human to human like verification, and it doesn't scale. But then again, yeah, I don't know. But we say we have 50,000 people in idea scale, but how many we have in Zoom call right now? 140, and we could actually manage to verify all of that.
Right.
The format of
Does
the
anyone,
warrant-
I have to go, but I was just wondering if anyone had questions for me before and this was terrific, Tevo. I really appreciate you putting it together.
Yep. I would also like to conclude the session, and thank you for joining. And if you see documents what are not in the list in this, then let us know or drop in the Motherboard so we don't miss something from community. And thanks for the feedback. We move that forward.
Yeah, appreciate the breakout room, Tevo, and thanks for all the input too, everybody, and Kenrick as well. Thank you.
Yeah, great to talk with everyone. Good to see you all.
Thanks.
See. Tevo, I'm not sure I had the right link to this Miro board that you were having now. How can we review it after the meeting?
I gave you the right link then. I don't know what was using.
All right, you just did it. Okay, fine. Let me get that up there. Great. Okay.
I dropped it in the IOG's Motherboard too.
Okay.
So
Super.
we have like a
Great to see you all. Thanks for all the input.
Bye, everyone.
I know.